Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby if you're new, and welcome back if you're not. Thank you for watching today's video. As you can tell by the title, this is something that I have debated a really long time on filming about, but you know what? It's something that is very common and it's real, it's life, it happens, and so I just thought I would share my journey with you. And yes, you're going to see the dogs in the video because they can't just lay down for a minute. Can you lay down? Lay down. Thank you. So, the reason I've debated on talking about this is just because it's not something I've been ready to share with people around me yet, not necessarily. You know, like not a lot of people know about what I or we have been through. So it's just taken me a while to decide that I want to film this video and bring you guys on this journey with us. So obviously we're talking about trying to conceive, and why we're talking about trying to conceive. So I will just start at the beginning and say that last July, so July 7th of 2016, I found out that I was pregnant, and we were not trying. So when I found out, I mean, obviously I was happy, excited. I love children. I cannot wait to have my own. I've always said, when somebody said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would say I want to be a mom. Like, that's just what I've set out in life to be. That's just my nature, and I want to have a ton of kids if possible. I understand that if it's not possible, that it's okay, but we're going to do whatever we, need to do. And so, yeah. So to continue with that, I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, couldn't believe that it was real, but like I was excited at the same time. Like, I'm not gonna be unhappy about something like that. So I told Dwight and I told my best friend, and everyone was excited, So then his grandmother's birthday was like a couple days later. So we decided that we would just go ahead and tell people, because if something was gonna happen, people would have to know what's happening. Either way, it's not something I wanted to keep a secret, and I'm not going to hide it. Like, if I miscarried, I miscarried, and we're just all going to have to deal with it together. That's not something I wanted to go through alone. So I would rather people know, and so that more people are, like, there for me. And I have a cough drop in because I have a cold, and I don't want to cough throughout this whole video, so sorry if that bothers you. But I just didn't want to go through that alone. So I've always known, like, no matter what, I'm not going to wait to tell anybody, because it's just something that it's a part of life, honestly, and it happens, unfortunately. I mean, it's very sad, and it breaks my heart even thinking about it, and that's another reason it took a while to talk about this, because Bella, get up here. Because it is sad and it sucks, but you know what? I'm not the only one that goes through this, so I'm going to share my story too. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Stay. She is so funny. Thank you. I'll stay here with Mama. So, anyways. His grandmother's birthday was a few days later, and that we went to her house that weekend. So we decided that we were going to tell all of our parents that weekend. Really? Stop. Thank you. So I got up early the morning of, and I went to Walmart. Y'all. I'm gonna have to put her in her. Alright, I put her up, so no more interruptions. And I'm gonna go ahead and apologize if I'm kind of like thinking or a little scatterbrained, because I don't have this written down in front of me, and I'm trying to, make sure I get all the details. So I may go back and forth, but stick with me. I know you can do it. Like this video at the end if you made it all the way through. So I went to Walmart that morning, and my mother-in-law and my Dwight's grandmother have like Pandora bracelets, charm bracelets, stuff like that, and they really like that stuff. So I went to Walmart and I got charms I got a baby charm. I was going to get 2 baby charms, but they didn't have 2, so I got a teddy bear charm and a baby charm. And we made a present for his mom and dad and had that in it as well, and then just like a little card that, told them about it. And then his grandmother had the charm and a card and said, you're being promoted to great grandmother and blah, blah, blah. And so we did that. And of course, very shocked they were, and because we weren't even engaged yet at the time, but of course they were shocked, but everybody ended up being happy about it. And the next day we went to a cookout and we told my mom and dad and a couple of my family members, and my brother, we told my mom and dad and my 2 brothers, and then that was it. We didn't tell anybody else. My boss knew, of course, but that was it. And so we waited. We had like a month until our 8-week appointment, and I was sick, nauseous, exhausted, incredibly exhausted, but I had no spotting, no bleeding, no nothing like that. Just very nauseous and tired, and then like sore boobs and stuff like that, like normal pregnancy symptoms. And when we went to our 8-week appointment, they could not find any. It was just the sac. So at like almost like 5.5 weeks, it had stopped growing, and I just hadn't started miscarrying anything yet. So of course, heartbroken. It was very hard to make any decisions right at that moment. But she said, do you want the surgery? Do you want to do it naturally? Or there's a pill you can take. And so I didn't think I wanted to do it naturally, because you don't know when it's going to happen. Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen 3 weeks from now? Or even later than that? Like, you just don't know. So I knew I didn't want to do that. And I really didn't want to have surgery. So I chose the pill. So I got the pills that day. When we left the doctor, we just kind of spent time with each other and just, just kind of got through it. It was really heartbreaking. Like, one of the worst days of my life. But I mean, it was what it was. There was nothing we could do about it, so we just had to move forward and take care of everything. Sorry if you can hear it. So, I chose the pill, and so that weekend she said to do it. She said to do the pills over the weekend because it would be a couple days. And I'm off on Mondays, so that way I would have plenty of time to like get through and recover and everything like that. So this was like a Thursday, I believe. And so I went to work the next day, and then Saturday we started the pills, and we started them Saturday night because I had to work on Saturday too. And literally immediately, as soon as I took those pills, it was like immediate pain, and I was like, I literally thought I was dying, but I thought, oh, this is just gonna go by really fast. So I ended up going to my mom's house because Dwight's not very good with like being up at night, and like, once he's asleep, he's very hard to wake up, so he's very confused and doesn't understand what I'm needing from him. So I just decided I would go to my mom's house and let her help take care of me, because I mean, she's always been there taking care of me, so this wasn't really any different, and she offered to help. So she came and got me, and that I stayed over there, and from the time I got to her house, it was probably like 10:30, and long story short, the pills did not work, and I thought I was going to die for like 3 days. So Sunday and Monday, nothing happened besides me throwing up and like having to go to the bathroom a lot, to put it in better terms. No bleeding, no nothing. Like, it was not working. And so Monday afternoon, after nothing had happened, my mom called my doctor and told her, like, nothing's happening, you know, she's basically dying. And, you know, the pain was the most excruciating pain I've ever felt. Like, I just could not believe how painful it was for nothing to be happening. That was the key. Nothing was happening. Now, if it was working and I was going through that pain, then okay, I get it. But absolutely nothing happened. So I went to the doctor Monday afternoon and got checked just to see like what was going on, and nothing was happening like we said. And so they scheduled a DNC for Wednesday. And so I went all day Tuesday, same pain. I mean, I had pain medicine that they gave me, but it still was, it didn't help as much as it should have. So then Wednesday we went in and I had the DNC. After that, me and Dwight decided, you know, we need to figure out what we're doing with our lives, because we're still in college and we were living with his parents at the time when we were both working, but we just needed to figure out like where this is going, because we've been together for 4 years. We're going on 5 years now, so it was like we just need to figure out what we want and what we're doing and what's our, you know, time frame, because at that point, like, both of our minds, like, even though it was only like an 8-week period, in both of our minds, like, we were preparing to be parents, and then that was all just taken away from us, just like that. So we just needed to know, like, what's the time frame on what we're doing. So we just decided we were going to take things slow and, you know, get engaged, get married, whatever. If that happened again in that process, then so be it. But if not, it's, you know, we had to figure out what was going on. So we found out that I was Rh negative, which basically, if you don't know what that is, it's, that's my blood type. My blood type is Rh negative, which means that Dwight's is probably a positive. We haven't got it checked, but he is probably a positive. So when you mix my negative and a positive, if the baby gets a positive blood type, then my body and my blood type thinks that it's like an alien and it's not supposed to be there. So it kills it off. It creates antibodies in my system and it kills off that alien, basically. And if the baby that gets a negative blood type, then it's fine. It's just when they're opposites that it becomes an issue. And so they have a RhoGAM shot for that, which I got Monday when I went back to the doctor to have everything checked. Before I had the DNC, I got that shot. So they say, you know, it's not going to happen again. You got the shot. You're good. You're taken care of. So all that happened. And then, so that was in August. And then, you know, we made it through, you know, Christmas and blah, blah. Thanksgiving is when we got engaged. We got engaged on Thanksgiving of 2016. So, like 4 months after all this happened, we got engaged, which was really exciting and was like definitely a step in the right direction, something we were ready for, and just, you know, it was time. And so then, you know, we started wedding planning right away, because we chose May 6th of the next year of 2017. And so let me back up. I think. Yes, my first miscarriage, I take that back. My first miscarriage was actually in April of 2016, but I didn't even know I was pregnant or anything. It was just kind of like I thought it was my period, and then my mom's had miscarriages before, so she's told me about them and what happens, and I knew about them. And so I, it was a quick, I didn't even know I was pregnant, and there was no way to tell, I was so early, but there was just enough, clotting in it to know, that's what was happening, and it was confirmed by a doctor and everything else. So that happened, But I always forget about that one being my first one because I'm not going to blast anything I shouldn't blast on here, but something really tragic happened like 2 days later. So that's what comes to mind when I think of that time, and not that miscarriage. So then that was in April, and then in July I found out I was pregnant again. I actually found out I was pregnant, and went 8 weeks being pregnant before I knew that I was miscarried, and that's when we found out I was RH negative and all of that. So then we got engaged in November and started wedding planning for May, and in February I found out I was pregnant again, which was scary, but because it's like you don't want it to happen again, and like you always think the worst about everything, so you just worry. But I found out I was pregnant again, and I called the doctor and told them right away, and I said, what do I need to do? Can I come in and get checked now to see, like, make sure I'm progressing instead of going backwards? And they were like, no, just let us know if you have any bleeding, and we will bring you in then. If not, then everything should be fine and you should be good to go. So I'm pretty sure this was like February 7th, because I told my mom on Valentine's Day. Yeah, which was a week later, and that whole week I did nothing but worry and stress, and of course that's not good for pregnancy either. So finally I told my mom on Valentine's Day a week later, and I talked to her about it and told her, what do you think I should do? And she said, you need to go in. You just need, so you stop worrying, so you have peace of mind, you just need to go in. So I called the next day and got in, and it was, yes, you're pregnant, here's your numbers, they look good, we just need to see if they're going up or down. So then I had to go back 48 hours later, and by then my numbers were decreasing again, so I was miscarrying again. And the next day I started spotting, so I knew it was coming, so I did that one naturally. I didn't take anything or get the DNC. I just let that one happen because it was starting right away, I couldn't tell. So that's when I miscarried then. Now, next comes up March. So at the end of February, I had went to work on a Saturday, and I noticed that my fingers were kind of tingling and going numb. And I had also noticed, like, I would have weaknesses in and out, like where I would just get really weak for no reason, and it was really weird. And I was thirsty all of that day. Like, that's the first time I noticed that I was thirsty, was just at work that day. I just was really thirsty. So then the next day we had a Daytona 500 party at my parents' house, and so we went there, and my fingers started going numb again. And so I told my mom about it, and she said, well, that's a sign of diabetes, but you're also a dog groomer, so you may just be getting carpal tunnel. And so that's what I just went with. I was like, oh yeah, it's just carpal tunnel, my wrists get it sometimes, and so I just thought, okay, now it's in my fingers. I don't know. And then we went home that night, and on Monday I really noticed the thirst. Like, it didn't matter what I drank, water, Coke, whatever, I could not get enough. Like, I was so thirsty, and my fingers weren't going numb anymore by then, but it was the thirst. Like, that was the main thing. Mind you, my little brother is diabetic and has been for 4 years at this point, so I kind of like knew what to look for. So I just watched it again Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. And Wednesday at work, I got really dizzy and really weak and was still really thirsty. So I decided to call my brother and have him stop by my work on his way home from school and let me check my sugar. So I didn't tell anybody else about it. He was like, that's weird. I didn't tell him what was going on. I just told him to, and I said, I'll talk to you when you get here. So when he got there, I told him what was going on, and we checked it. The first time I checked it, and I actually checked it with the meter I have here. Like this, I have the same one he has. So this is it. And I checked it on this meter, not this one exactly, but his, and it said error. At that point, I'm like, great. So I called my mom. He said, you just need to call Mom. And so I called her and I said, Mom, here's what's been going on. And I had Bobby come by and let me check my sugar, and it's reading an error. And Bobby said that means it's too high to read. And she said, go wash your hands and check it again. So I went and washed my hands and I checked it again, and it read 570 something. I don't remember exactly. And so she was still on the phone, and I told her it's 575 or 4, whatever. And she said, okay, I'm on my way. I was like, what do you mean you're on your way? And she's like, we have to go to the emergency room right now. So right then, we all knew, like, I was diabetic. Now, I knew for like 4 or 5 days, and I just really did not want to admit it, honestly. I just didn't want to admit it. I've seen what my brothers had to go through, and I just didn't want to have to go through that. And I just thought it was crazy. Like, what's the odds that, like, we're the only 2 children with the same 2 parents, and it's like, what is the odd that both of us are going to turn out to be type 1 diabetics? Like, it just blows my mind. To this day, it still blows my mind, and I've not met anybody else where their sibling is diabetic as well. I love it because, like, we have this, like, totally special bond now. Like, we were really close to begin with, but now it's like we are really, like, we just have a special bond when it comes to stuff like that. So I really do like that. But to move on with the story, because this video is going to be long enough as it is, so go to the emergency room, blah blah blah. Yes, I am type 1 diabetic. I spent 2 days in the hospital dealing with all that and learning everything. And then my boss's parents are diabetes doctors, so how ironic is that? But I, scheduled appointments with them and just decided, like, they were going to be my doctors. They took my insurance and blah blah blah. So they knew about the miscarriages before and stuff like that, and then knew that we were getting married, so knew that, like, trying to have a baby was going to be on the top of our list. So they have a study going on to find, like, a cure for type 1 diabetes and stuff like that. And that was the first intention, was I was going to do the study. But when we went in to talk about the study, it was an 18-month-long program, and you can't get pregnant. You can't do a bunch of stuff that has to do with, like, getting pregnant and blah, blah, blah. And getting married in 2 months, I knew, like, I was not waiting 18 more months to try to have a baby, because it may take 18 months and 3 miscarriages or 4 or 5, to get a healthy pregnancy. So I wasn't willing to like, take away from that. So I did not end up doing this study, but I still have them as my doctors. And so trying to conceive was, like, put on the top of our priority list to get me where I needed to be able to conceive. So the first thing we did was get me set up with a new high-risk doctor, because I'm considered high risk no matter what now. So that was the first goal, was to get me in with them. And we scheduled it for, like, a couple months away, because we just, we weren't going to go through that anytime soon. So I was diagnosed on March 1st. I think it was March 10th I found out I was pregnant. And immediately I panicked, because I just found out I was diabetic. There's no way my numbers, like my A1C, is where it needs to be. Like, that was obvious, because it was obviously really, really high. I think it was in the 9s. So it was obvious that, like, this was not good. Like, there was no way that, it was possible to, like, hold that pregnancy, but it was just, like, it was scary. And I was already freaked out from, adjusting to having diabetes, let alone now having to try to, I wasn't prepared for pregnancy and diabetes all within the same 2 weeks. because it's just a whole nother ball game having diabetes and being pregnant. So I went to my doctor, not the new one, the old one, and they confirmed I was pregnant and all that. And then we did my blood test, and it was good the first time. And then when I went back for the 48 hours later, I was dropping again. So I was miscarrying again already. And at this point, like, this was the only miscarriage that I was, like, okay with, because honestly, it was for the best. There was just way too much that was going to have to go down in order to, like, bring that around and deal with. So I'm thankful that you know, like, I got that scare out of the way, because now, like, things are so well. So after that miscarriage, I went to the new high-risk doctor, and we went over everything that had happened within the last year. And they couldn't believe that they haven't caught it before then. She said, "You've probably been diabetic for at least a year." And they should have checked all that stuff when I was going in and having all this blood work done, but they never did. They just always talked about me being Rh negative, and I got like 3 RhoGAM shots. Yeah, I think I've had 3, and they just kept doing that, saying that's all that it was. But anyway, so I went there, and we went over like what our plan was and stuff like that, and we agreed that like 6 to 7 months was ideal, because I have to get my A1C to as close to a 6 as possible. And so we were looking at like October, November is when we could start trying, if we were going to try. And that was fine, because in October we're going on a cruise, and I can't go on the cruise if I were to be pregnant. So it was, you know, best that we'll just stick out that 6 to 7 months and get back from the cruise, and then we'll, you know, work on seeing if that's what we're ready to do. And so once we like got a game plan of what we needed to do, she was like, "I'm gonna run every test I know to run to see if diabetes and the Rh negative are the only 2 things affecting your pregnancies." So I had, I think, 12 or 14 tubes of blood drawn that day, which is absolutely crazy to me. I don't even know how it's possible to get that many, like, full tubes. Like, it's insane. I don't even know how I made it and didn't pass out, because sometimes I do pass out, just like on one little tube, and this was like 12 or 14, I don't remember exactly. But she took that much and tested everything, and so then a week later I went back and got the results, and everything looked great, except for I had one, like, blood clotting mutation thing that was from a lack of folic acid. So I was put on folic acid and then a baby aspirin for a little bit of inflammation that I was having. And that inflammation was in my kidneys, which is just from diabetes and stuff. So that's what I was put on then, and just to go ahead and prepare and just get my body adjusted, so when the time came, it would be already fine. And we're not trying to fight several things at one time. So that's what I do. Now I take folic acid and baby aspirin every day, which I'm actually just taking prenatals now, since there's folic acid in that. It's just easier. And so, yeah, we checked my A1C for every month for a couple months, in April, and then in May, I went for another follow-up appointment, and this was after we got married. We got married on May 6th, and so after that, I went for a follow-up appointment to see a nutritionist about my diet and stuff like that, and then she wanted to check my A1C again. So we checked my A1C, and I had it checked in April, and it was like a 7.2, 7.1, something like that. So it came down a lot. Mind you, I have worked my butt off ever since I found out I was diabetic, because I just know how important this is to me and how important it is to my body to do what I have to do. So I've really worked my butt off, and it's very emotionally draining and like mentally draining, but I know that in the end it's really going to be worth it. So when I went in May, she called me like a few days later, and my A1C was down to a 6.2. So she said, we don't need to see you again until you get a positive pregnancy test. Unless you have something else that you need to come in for, like to get checked out or whatever, then I don't need to see you again until you have a positive pregnancy test. So that was literally the best news that I've ever heard in my entire life, because she told me it was going to take 6 to 7 months to get it down to that, and I did it in like 3. So I was really proud of myself and really excited, but we still had the cruise in May, so it's kind of like we haven't been trying, we haven't necessarily been preventing a lot, but we have prevented some, and so it's just like, if it happens, it happens, but, you know, whatever. So here we are. It's September 15th, so we're good. I think if it were to happen now, I don't think it'll happen now, so we are going to start trying, like hardcore trying, when we get back from the cruise. So I will definitely, you know, bring you guys along on this journey. I want you guys to be a part of it, and I want to share all of this with you, because I know I'm not the only one, and now that diabetes is the issue, I only have seen like 1 or 2 pregnancy and diabetes people on YouTube, and I've really enjoyed watching their videos and learning from them, so I hope that I can do the same for somebody else. And yeah, so that's basically the journey that we have been on, and now the new journey of trying to conceive. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments. Like this video if you made it all the way through, and let me know if you have any suggestions or advice about trying to conceive and having diabetes and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!